Hello, this is Ash for Tap Napper Snap, and I'm here with second degree black belt, life coach, and author, Professor Valerie Worthington. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for joining me on Tap Napper Snap today. Today we're going to be doing drilling while talking. Would you like to describe the move you're going to be teaching?
Sure. So what I'd like to do is show a choke that you can get from the regular mount going into S mount. So if I can get you to lie down. And actually, let's turn you this way. So oftentimes, when you have the mount, you can go for an Americana here, and the way that your partner is likely to try to defend is to bring their arm back. So if Ash is defending against my attempt to do the Americana, and he brings his arm back over his body, then I can drop down on his tricep, okay? So if I end up on his elbow, I'm just gonna push and drop down. So now the weight of my chest is keeping his arm across his body. From here, I can take the hand that's behind his head, and I'm going to grab the sleeve. The other hand is going to push down on the elbow, or on the tricep, not straight down on the elbow, but I'm going to push to get him to come to his side. So from here, I'm going to drop down and keep my chest behind his shoulder so that he is unable to get back into a prone position. Exactly. My foot is going to be in the bend of his hip so that he isn't able to grab it with his legs and put me in some kind of half guard here. So I'm going to keep my foot right here. Then what I'm going to do is feed my arm underneath, just like this. Open his collar. Now, the hand that was grabbing his wrist is going to take the collar here, just like this, okay? Then, the hand that's here on his elbow, I'm going to start to tuck this elbow. I'm going to bring this arm behind his head, and posture. Okay, so one more time, let's talk it. There we go.
So, Valerie, tell me about your book and why you started writing it.
Sure. So I wrote a book called Training Wheels, and I can never remember the subtitle of my own book, but it was about living a fulfilling life and using jiu-jitsu as a way to make that happen. So the reason I wrote the book is because I had started out with a blog while I was doing this travel that I did for jiu-jitsu. So I started writing this blog, and I ended up getting a lot of people who were interested in my story. So I started writing more and more, and I started writing for jiu-jitsu magazines and things, publications, and I decided that I wanted to kind of share a longer story, especially because after I would tell people about that story, they'd say, there's a book there, you should write a book, you should write a book. So then I did, and it was Ernest Hemingway is the one who said, writing is easy, all you do is sit at a typewriter and read. So,
Fair enough.
he didn't have a computer.
So, in your book, you talk about how blue belts used to run gyms. Was that a common thing back then, and how did that work out?
So it was certainly more common than it is now. My first instructor was a blue belt, and I think that the reason is because that's okay.
Keep going.
I think the reason is because there just wasn't as much access to upper belts. Jiu-jitsu was sort of, at least in the United States, it was in more of a nascent period, shall we say, and so it was difficult to get access to upper belts. So if you wanted to learn, you went for videotapes, or you went to whoever had even a little bit more knowledge than you did, and oftentimes that was a blue belt. And oftentimes they were affiliated under a black belt, but that black belt lived elsewhere. So there was a lot of responsibility on these blue belts who were trying to run schools, trying to teach, all while they were trying to learn their own jiu-jitsu as well. So this is, yep, there we go.
Oh, I see.
There we go, yep. There it is.
So tell me about what was the most difficult part of the process when you were doing this journey? Was it the beginning, the middle? You had to give up that lifestyle. What was the most difficult part?
Yes. So that's a joke, terrible one. But it was all difficult, but I think that, you know, pulling the Band-Aid off, making that decision to quit my job and to sell my home and to leave a relatively stable existence to do this crazy thing, that was the biggest hurdle, and a lot of it was an identity thing. It wasn't only that I was making all these changes. It was that I had much less of a sense of who I was, because all the markers of who I was just getting rid of. And you add that to the fact that my friends and family had no idea what I was doing. Under here, there we go. Had no idea what I was doing, and neither did I, and it made for sort of a huge identity crisis.
So do you ever travel for jiu-jitsu still? Would you do it again? Would you take another 3-month stint, or is that part of it just behind you?
I don't. I still do travel for jiu-jitsu. I'm actually getting ready to go to New Zealand with my instructor, one of the people who gave me my black belt, John Awano. But that being said, I'm not interested in being a jiu-jitsu sort of vagabond anymore, because while I really enjoyed it, I definitely am looking for a little bit more stability in my life, geographically at least, and I'm happy where I'm living, which is Philadelphia. So I still love to travel sometimes for jiu-jitsu or for other reasons, but I always want to come home now.
Here. And then I remember this.
There we go.
What? Alright, well, thank you very much for joining me today on Drilling While Talking.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate you letting me come to your gym and record here.
Thanks for coming. Like, comment, and subscribe, or the arm gets it.